Hello, this is Pastor Terry Goodman, and I want to welcome you to the Wesleyan Connection. This podcast is primarily for the clergy and laity of the Holston Annual Conference. Join with me now as I take a look around the connection and share some of the things happening in the churches of our annual conference. On this podcast, we're going to continue our conversation with Ken Luton. This time, he's going to be talking with us about our pension plan within the annual conference. You know, I served on the board of pensions and health benefits for about 8 years, and about the time I got off, I was finally beginning to understand some of the terminology and things that are involved when we talk about, as we did last podcast, health insurance, and this podcast, pensions. I'm certainly glad that we have someone as knowledgeable as Ken working in the conference office for us. And so I hope that you find this discussion we're about to have to be enlightening and maybe give you some insight into our conference pension plan that you might not have had up until now. So here's the interview. Okay. I'm here also to talk with Ken Luton, who was in our previous broadcast about pensions in our annual conference. And I'm just going to sort of throw the floor open. What is it about our pension plan that maybe you from an insider's look realize that me from a user or an outsider doesn't quite understand? Is there some aspect of it that maybe we need to be enlightened on to help us better comprehend it?
I think the important thing to know is for clergy is that all appointed clergy are eligible to enroll with the General Board of Pensions and Health Benefits, now known as WESPath.
Okay, that's going to be an elder, full-time local pastor. Is it part-time local pastor?
Part-time local pastor receiving zero compensation if they are licensed and under appointment. That initial appointment for licensed local pastor doesn't make what they're making from their church. They need to enroll with WESPath for the pension plan.
Okay, how would that work if, say, you're not making anything? Is church going to contribute, or is it just going to be straight from you?
Well, let's not confuse plans.
Okay.
There's several plans.
Okay. Terminology is important again.
What the enrollment does, it establishes when you first go under appointment what your appointment is and what your compensation and housing arrangement is. And then from then on, as you move on through your clergy career, if you move, let's say you're at 25% a quarter-time appointment, and your next appointment's at 50%, and your next at 75%, and then you become a full-time appointee, there's a record that shows what's happening in your appointment history that correlates directly to the journal. You may not earn any monetary pension credit or benefit, but your service record is established and is consistent with the journal.
Okay.
If you're under 50% appointment or above, you can earn credits towards the defined benefit portion of the current pension plan.
Okay, which means that at retirement you would receive a credit for however...
You'd receive a percentage of the denominational average compensation.
Even if you were paid nothing in that year.
Even if you were paid nothing. And the difference between the way WESPath looks at service time and the way we look at service time from different aspects is they look at hours spent on a weekly basis, with 30 hours being full-time. So if you've got a local pastor that's essentially working 15 hours a week, either visiting in the hospitals, ministering at church, preaching, if they do 15 hours a week, basically they're at 50% appointment level for accrued benefits under the defined benefit portion of the pension plan.
Okay. That's good to know.
That's right.
Because I know some persons that have been through licensing school and have been appointed, and I think basically all they get is maybe mileage to get to the church on Sunday mornings. They're doing it because they're getting ready to go through seminary, and
that's right.
So they can be accruing pension, not credit. What pension?
Yeah, pension credit.
Pension credits.
That's right.
Okay. Well, I'll be sure to tell my friends about that.
Yeah.
Well, what else?
Now, it gets to be kind of delicate at that point. The appointment cabinet uses local pastors or any clergy that are working less than 100 full-time appointment to go to churches that whose financial strength may not be able to support a direct billing from our office for pensions.
Okay.
There has to be an agreement between the clergy and the local church and the district superintendent that, okay, he's enrolled and we're going to allow him to accrue pension benefits. If they say you need to waive out of that benefit for a little while, then there's a waiver form that you can complete that will not allow you to accrue benefit, but will also not generate a direct billing invoice from me to the local church.
Oh, okay.
All right. Now, that does not prevent the clergy from being able to contribute into another plan that we have, and that's a UMPIP 403B account. It acts like a 401k account. They can waive out of the pension portion, but they can still have part of their compensation deferred and put in this 403B account for future to accumulate, a cash balance in there.
Okay, I'm an elder. Have been since, I don't know, back in the 90s. I came in after 1982, and I've been accumulating pension credits in all those years or whatever. And the money that I put in each month right now, that goes to the UMPIP portion?
The amount that you designate on your pastor support worksheet, going into that, it goes into that UMPIP account.
Okay.
That is billed by Westpath to the local church. They withhold it from your compensation and send them a check.
In addition to that, though, they also send in an amount that's based upon a certain line item in my pastor's worksheet, if I'm not mistaken. That's like 16.3% of a certain line item.
That's the factor that we use at the conference level to generate direct billing invoices to the local church for pension.
So that, in essence, becomes the church's contribution to my pension plan. No?
Well, let's not get tied up in semantics.
Okay, semantics again.
That represents a contribution from the local church to the conference for pension funding.
Okay.
It is based on your compensation and housing arrangement.
And then
it doesn't that amount of money does not necessarily accrue to Terry Goodman's benefit directly.
Okay. What accrues to my benefit directly? If the conference sends a check as a whole? No.
You've got a year of service. You earn 1 percentage point under the defined benefit plan of the denominational average compensation. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You earn that, regardless of what your salary is.
Okay.
Also contribute 3% of your what's called pensionable wages, which is your cash salary plus housing, goes into a side fund for CRSP, and it's a cash fund that operates just like the UNPIP account.
Okay.
Now, if you you have to put 1% in UNPIP to generate that 3% contribution. If you don't contribute anything to UNPIP, then it's only a 2% contribution into the side fund of CRSP.
Okay. I'm not going to try to. In my mind, I'm untangling those kinds of things, but we're not going to have time on a broadcast to untangle
Don't confuse
that.
what you as an individual clergy person is accruing as benefits. Don't try to equate that to the money that's coming from your church into the conference. The money that we bill the church is based on your compensation times that 16.3% factor. But that money comes into the general pension fund pool of money that we use to pay for those benefits. Because we're charged every month for people that are drawing benefits, getting benefits under CPP, et cetera, et cetera.
So that's why we have a reserve fund with the general board, so that the money is there so that eventually it's going to be paid out.
That's right.
So that money that's being taken in from the local church, does it sort of go to that goes to that big pool, and then over time, eventually?
Well, it comes into the coffers of the conference. It comes into the accounts of the conference. When we settle up at the end of the year with Westpath, then if we have any surplus, then we increase our pension reserves by that. Same thing. If we got more costs billed to us than we have collected during the year, then we can dip into our reserves and smooth that out.
And the costs are what you pay out in that year for all the retired clergy.
That's right.
And that's sort of based on different formulas. We got pre-82.
That's a whole different.
That's a whole different thing. That's a whole other broadcast.
That's a whole other thing.
So, well,
and to touch on 82, the pre-82 plan, nobody's accruing any more benefits under pre-82, with the exception of the prior service rate as it possibly increases.
Okay. Well, is there any last thing you'd like to say about pensions or insurance? I've appreciated you spending some time with me in these couple of podcasts. Well, the important
thing is that young clergy or new clergy coming into the conference, if they get enrolled with Westpath as a clergy person, to start their service record, and so because you don't know how many times somebody's come up with to retire, and they said, my service record is wrong. There's 6 years when I was under appointment and all this. It's not on my service record. And, 3 months before retirement is not the time to be doing that.
No, got to look ahead on that. In about 13 years, we'll be having this conversation, Ken, 13 or 14, when I consider retirement. Well, I thank you again for being with us today, and hopefully that everyone has learned something, and I wish you the best in your ministry with us.
Well, thank you.
Thanks. This is Pastor Goodman. Thanks for listening to this edition of the Wesleyan Connection. Be sure to check back often for more podcasts.